Hi, Theater Pizzazz. I'm Meredith Heyman. So excited to be talking Broadway and theater with you today. Joining me is one of the stars of the Tony nominated Outer Critics Circle winning Drama Desk Award winning new play, Stereophonic, Andrew Butler. Andrew, congratulations on your blockbuster Broadway hit, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Meredith. Happy to be here, coming at you from one of the dressing rooms at the Golden Theater. The glam and the glory all laid out here behind me.
Absolutely, exactly how we like it. So talk to me. Uh, Congratulations first on this your Drama Desk Award for Best Ensemble. Also, Outer Critics Circle for Best New Play. Still have the Drama Desk Award for Best Play in the mix, and of course the Tony Award for Best Play among many others. How's award season going for you so far?
I mean, it's great. It's a thrill. It's so sweet to be in a production that's being so deeply and widely celebrated, especially a show that I've been a part of for a really long time. A huge project, a huge, massive play, a play that seemed like maybe nobody will produce something this like ambitious, and to see it not only on its feet but being really lauded is incredibly gratifying.
Now, how has speaking of this special drama desk award that you guys are getting for ensemble, how has the dynamic of the cast ensemble evolved, changed, if you will, from off Broadway at Playwrights Horizons, now on Broadway at the Golden? Has it grown? Has it changed for you guys?
It has, yeah. It's really sort of like deepened and become more comfortable with time. We, all of us, really met, very few of us knew each other before we started the rehearsal
Hmm.
process at Playwrights. And we're playing a group of people, many of whom are already in a deep, collaborative, creative relationship. That's a lot of what the show is about. So the process at Playwrights was had a sort of like meta vibe of like the band becoming a band and a bunch of collaborators who are playing collaborators, learning how to collaborate together, and having gone through the whole process off Broadway, and then had some chance to, in the break, to know we had more ahead of us in the future and to be excited about it, and on the group texts in the interim, and then come back to it. It just feels really lived in, and the intimacy between all of the cast members is that you see on stage is very lived in at this point, which is really lovely.
You said that you didn't know that anyone would be ambitious enough to produce this show on Broadway, but did you know, despite that question, that you had a hit on you from the beginning?
That's what a good question. I mean, I did my first workshop of the play in 2016, a really early draft with David, and Will Brill, who's in the show now, was also in that workshop. And then Will took a break for a while, and I did a bunch of workshops and readings in the interim of the project. And I've been obsessed with it from day one, with the way that it uses song, with the way that it builds this hyper realistic world. I have always felt like it had such great, appeal to, and it's so accessible, but also the format of it is actually quite an experiment, and requires a lot of rigor and technical precision. Uh, and I mean, until we were doing it on stage at Playwrights, I couldn't say that I knew how people would take to it. You kind of never really know. It didn't seem totally obvious that people were going to feel like sucked into the world of it in the way they do. Um, Maybe I could have predicted it if I was outside of it enough to see the beautiful detail work that Daniel has been doing, and to feel the way that Will Butler's score weaves in and out and ties everything together. But from the inside of it, I was just obsessed with the world, but not didn't know that it was going to connect with people from the outside this much.
And even though you've been with the show for so long, how has it been making your Broadway debut with Stereophonic?
Oh, it's such a dream. It's such a dream to be getting to do this with a play that I believe in so thoroughly, a play that I'm so proud to be a part of. Getting to do anything at this level is a real gift, and I wouldn't look any of those gift horses in the mouth, no matter what I was here with. But it is extra special to be in a play that I feel like I will be proud my entire life to have been a part of this play. And I would have been that proud no matter, where it had wound up. But for it to be in a place where everybody is able to see and celebrate it is extra special.
Absolutely. Now you play Charlie in the play. Is it fair to say Charlie is like an assistant to the engineer, or is he? So you
Yeah.
are watching the recording sessions happen. How have you seen these performance pieces, I guess, develop in that from the audience's perspective, we're supposed to see these very um raw and unpolished pieces. These are the band's first times, you would think, putting them down. But you guys have been doing them for so long and so many times. You're not performing them, but do you notice how it like those developments work? How have you guys been able to keep it so fresh? The answer is that you're incredible actors and performers and you know what you're doing. But aside from that part, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, the technical feat of doing something that you know incredibly well and making it seem sort of uncertain or fresh or raw is, well, on one hand, the task of acting and the craft of building a performance. So, but it's wild that our band is doing it not just as actors in terms of their text and sort of the world that they're living in, but also like a vocal performance or an instrumental performance. I think that the expression of like where the characters are and this thing that you're bringing up, this idea of like, oh, it's like this is like their first take of a song, and how is performing a first take of a song different from performing the take where you nail it, and how do you do that in a way so that the audience feels a sense of the difference of like, sure, we saw them like do some first takes and now we're watching like a magic moment where everything clicks. And some of that is the work that Will Butler and Justin Craig have done on the music. Justin is our music director and co-orchestrator of the show to give us like a text, basically a musical text that tells the story of that progression, so that it's not entirely on the performers to somehow like try to like sell that this one's a little rougher than that one. That the music grows and progresses over the course of the play and over the course of these different takes. And our sound designer Ryan Rummery, who's telling a story that is a design element that is sort of inside of and on top of it. Like where how the sound feels in the space shifts the way that he's communicating with the audience. Ryan helps to tell that story to the audience too. So it sounds impossible to give the like, oh, I'm messing it up this time and I'm nailing it that time, just like every night and sell it over and over. But we're also supported by all of these design elements and the writing and the orchestrations that are kind of like invisibly telling that story and doing that work to help us communicate that shift.
Have you developed a new appreciation for sound design, both as a part of Broadway and also the music industry at large?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes. And getting to work with Will and Justin, who are both like record producers, like these guys like make beautiful records. They made a beautiful, incredible record for us that's out now of the cast recording of the show that is so much more than just a cast recording of what you hear in the show. And getting to hear them talk about that journey and figure out the music and what should it be and how should the pedals work for the guitars and thinking about the dramaturgy of the vocal arrangements and all that jazz. And I love that stuff. I work in musicals a lot and I write musicals and songs and things. So getting to see it all through their eyes has been really incredible. And the sound design stuff especially. I mean, what Ryan has accomplished with telling this story between a functional like recording studio and a stage and then trying to balance those two things is an unbelievable feat that also makes magic possible. I often feel like it's almost like cheating a little, because we we have such an incredible close control of the sound and the sound of the songs because of the fact that they're being performed inside of a soundproof room and then fed out to the audience is really different than the way that most music is performed on stage, on any stage, in any context. This is like a thing that simply does not exist that we're doing. So a part of the magic of it is that people are just getting this audio experience at a play that they have never had and will like never have in any other performance context.
And thank goodness that the Tony for sound design is back. Uh,
Yes, yes. She
right? Well deserved, and should never have gone away. Uh, my own opinion, but I mean, you really if you didn't understand it before, I hope people understand how important it is now.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, and maybe it makes like having the extra layer of that room and going like, oh, somebody had to figure out like how to make what the performers are doing sound good for us, like is still true for every show. It's just the extra step that Ryan has had to figure out makes it really apparent how much work sound designers do to
Mm,
communicate theater to
mm.
us and to our ears and our bodies.
And now having that cast album out, is it a little bit weird of a life imitating art? I hope a nicer experience than what is portrayed on the stage, but you got this weird duality there.
Yeah, it is really fun. Yeah, we maybe missed an opportunity to make a hilarious documentary where we pretended like we were all in a bunch of miserable relationships with each other, making the
Right.
cast album. But
Yes.
in reality, the company is so sweet, and we all are quite fond of each other. And it was, and also having Will and Justin made it so like smooth and well supported because they're such old hands, and we recorded in town and in spread out a little bit. It just was so gracefully handled. Um, but certainly the little like meta layers of it are not lost on us,
Yeah.
especially as we have this album out now that's like on Spotify, and we're sharing like, oh wow, look how many people have listened to it, and then this sense of like, oh, it's sort of like what happened, maybe it isn't sort of like what happens in the play, and so far it's the happy version though, where everybody gets along.
I think have you have a really good idea on you. If you guys get like bored, if you're not working hard enough before shows end, the show's run ends, you could make like a new mockumentary. Have you seen I forget what the title of it is, but like the mockumentary of the like the company album recording,
Yeah.
right? This could be the next iteration of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that once we're in July, we're through all the award stuff, and we'll be like, "Gosh, we've done this show a lot of times." It'll give us something fun to do,
There
pre
you
and
go.
post show around the Golden.
Totally. There you go. There you go. All right. You have some plans in the works. If you could, speaking of like a company though, have you had any like, if you could either go back in time and now sound engineer a Broadway cast album, I guess more musical based, and you're a musical person, is there one that has now come to mind, or do you have one in the works that again maybe post this show's run you're thinking about?
Oh, to engineer? Oh my gosh, that's such a fun question. I think that one of the experiences of playing Charlie has taught me is that would probably not love being the engineer in the room.
Who would?
But it would be cool to get to go back and, like be the fly on the wall that Charlie gets to be. I guess, are you saying that? I'm immediately like, I have such a deep respect, uh, now more than ever for the work that like recording engineers and sound engineers and the amount of technical ability that they bring to their jobs. And even like Charlie, fictitious Charlie, who is such a sort of sweet, kind of like awkward, innocent character who just kind of gets kicked around and forgotten a lot. That, especially in that era, this guy was probably like an incredible technician who is capable of this like really phenomenal niche skill set that you don't really see in the show because it's not, that would be the most boring version of the show. You're like watching Charlie like calibrate the tape machine or whatever. But I certainly don't have those skill sets. So the thought of going back and engineering an album would probably mean that I would then ruin that album and have basically destroyed an important piece of Broadway history. But there are so many shows. I mean, to be able to be there for like recording of like any of the productions of Cabaret that have been on Broadway. I mean, any Sondheim that has been on Broadway, just like to see those artists work. And also recording a cast album for a Broadway show seems like a really crazy, difficult thing to do. Like the speed, and it's like it happens while shows are up. Like we recorded the content for this album not during the run of this show, which was an
That's
incredible
nice.
gift.
That's nice.
Because I've been talking to my friends in Suffs, and they just wrapped recording, and
Yeah.
it's like I brought my parents were in town on our last Sunday that was off, and we went to see Suffs, and then I was saying hi to everybody backstage, and they were all like, "Oh my gosh, it's so great to see you." They were like, "We gotta go. We're gonna go. We have to go record for the album, and then we have to get up tomorrow and record for the album
Yeah.
before the show." And I was like, "Oh right."
It's a
So
wild time, especially when it's the spring season at the end. It can be like open the show, nominations, record the album, interviews,
yeah,
award cycle season.
yeah, and then I'm thinking about the post of recording an album where it's like, oh, and then you've got, Shane and Andrew and the music team over there who are like gonna be listening to mixes and things, I assume, on top of going to 500 industry events and doing press, and it's a huge lift. So it's cool that we got to record our album in a little bit of space and time, and then we're just getting able to just sort of enjoy it, like making its way out into the world right now. Will Butler and Justin were working on the mix and tweaking and creating and crafting and cutting and ordering and all that stuff while we were in our preview and opening process. So they were working on it, but we were busy doing the show at that time, so we got to kind of divide and conquer a little bit.
A luxury. A luxury.
Yeah,
Well,
truly.
the luxury is on us now. We can see you at the Golden Theater through August 18th. Andrew, thank you so much for being with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for chatting.
Absolutely. Stay right here with Theater Pizzazz for more from me and Broadway news and interviews. I'm Meredith Heyman. We'll see you next time.